Happy Tuesday. Welcome back to Inside the Lines. We got a lot on the plate today. We're going to get a little creative with the Super Bowl props, continuing to pick away at them up until game time. Talking about defense today, talking about some tackles. And of course, we have just a 5-game, I believe, NBA slate to go through. So we're going to do that too. But first, what we got to do is bring in John. Johnny B, we are back on the NHL picks. Are we feeling better today?
No, not much better at all.
That's not the confidence we need, okay? Come on. We can do this.
Yeah, I mean, the confidence isn't there, but, when we get some winners, the confidence will come. But we've got 2 days left until the NHL break here, so we're not going to have plays until Monday. We might have another play tomorrow, but I like the St. Louis Blues tonight on the money line, minus 155 against the Blue Jackets. You can find that on ESPN. The Blues are heating up right now. They've won 5 in a row, and they've been underdogs in their last 4 games straight. So they've been playing very good hockey. They're 15-8-1 at home this season, and they're playing the Blue Jackets, who have now lost 4 of their last 5 and 7 of their last 9 games. They're also 6-11-6 on the road this season. So they've won just 6 games all year on the road. So I know it's a little juicy, but we're going to go with the Blues here.
Maybe juicy is what we need after the run we've been having, okay? We got to switch it up in some way. I think this is great. I think we get hot right before the NHL break. This could be good. All right. Any more questions for John? Please feel free to put them in the chat. Jake is also in the chat today, answering anything NBA, college basketball. He's going to be strictly committed to the chat. Me and Steven are going to take the big screen here. Let's go. Before we get to our NFL tackle props, let's hit this quick 5-slate NBA plate here. We're going to start with Indiana headed to Boston. Boston 7-point home favorites here. We're going to our guy, Pascal Siakam.
Yeah. So I think 22.5 is bumped up to 23.5. Unfortunately, so you probably want to act now. He's been averaging 21 points and 6 assists his last 5 games. If Haliburton does come back to play, then he should get more efficient scoring opportunities and more field goal attempts. If Haliburton doesn't play, then he should continue his role, which is pretty high volume ball distributor too. So the over is 10-4. That's equally split between his last few games in Toronto and his stretch in Indiana. So with a 28 average, he's averaged 28.6 points and assists in the last 8 games versus Boston. In terms of the game overall, we like Boston against the spread. I don't know if you can still get minus 6.5. You could earlier this morning. It's purely based on 3-point percentage differential. Indiana shoots 4 percentage points worse on the road from 3. They allow 3 percentage points higher on the road. Boston allows 33 percentage points less at home. And at the 33% at home, 3 percentage points less, and shoots 4 percentage points better at home. So that's where the model's coming in from an ATS standpoint.
Okay, thanks for breaking that down. Jake's saying in the chat, Siakam over 3.5 assists has gone from minus 150 to minus 400. Caesars do be like that. They really are like that a lot. But you know what?
I felt like someone was spying on me this morning when I was stuff.
I see a lot of people talking about the Gatorade color in the chat. We certainly will be getting to some more exciting, fun props later next week.
Working on a model for that.
Yeah. We're going to figure out the model. We're going to get Jake crunching the numbers on Gatorade color and national anthem time. All right. I see a question about Jaylen Brown in the chat. Let's hit that quick. His line, 23.5 points if you want to go to the model.
Yeah, I like this. This is one I was about to go with. We have 24 points. I don't know if I took out Porzingis for now because he didn't play yesterday and it didn't seem like it was that close a call. But if he doesn't play, then I really like this. If he does, then I'd probably stay off.
All right. Good to know there. Let's move on here. Lakers going to the Hawks. Hawks actually 5-point favorites here. Are we looking at any injuries or what am I missing here?
I mean, LeBron is probably a game time decision playing a back-to-back on the road. The Lakers just got humiliated again at Houston. I think a lot of us yesterday were on Houston as on the money line yesterday. Atlanta's terrible at home, but again, Lakers are just not a good traveling team. In terms of projection and value, I like Anthony Davis over 24.5 points. The model has him at 28.6 points. Again, assuming LeBron isn't going to play. I just saw his lines post, so maybe he will take a shot. Davis only played 29 minutes last night. He scored 23 points. Overs 12-9 on the road this season with a 25-point average. The good thing I like about him is he's had 20-plus field goal attempts in 3 of his last 4 games, and the one he didn't, he had 18.
Mm-hmm. What's the it looks like AD might be
Oh, that's
Maybe.
good. Well,
All
forget
right.
what I said. Anthony Davis is out, so.
We can come up with those updated
Well,
numbers.
Jake, I did post these notes 3 hours ago, so something we could have mentioned before I look like a jackass.
Classic Tuesday NBA.
Don't take out your bad run from yesterday on me by making me look stupid.
All right. Well, good thing is we have plenty of other plays we can get through as, he was ruled out 30 seconds ago, to be fair.
Okay. All right, Jake, you still have a job.
All right. Let's head over to the Jazz going to New York. New York 4.5-point home favorites here. Best model value is the spread.
Yeah, I think you can still get -4, which I like. Utah allows 57% 2-point shooting on the road. They don't defend the paint very well versus just 52% at home. So they're really good at home, not on the road. New York's shooting over 60% on twos in 3 of their last 5 games. And that's, with Randall getting hurt and Randall not playing last night and then getting hurt, in a previous game. So Utah commits 5 more turnovers than their opponent on the road. And New York has had under 10 turnovers in the last 3 games. They're really taking care of the ball. And in just overall point differential, Utah is -10 on the road. New York is +10 at home. So there's some metrics here that would indicate this should be at least a 14-point spread. And so I think you got to take this value here. I'm not worried about New York playing back-to-back.
Yeah. Okay, this is an interesting game here. The Raptors headed to Chicago. Some major steam to Chicago because RJ Barrett and Quickly still possibly out here. So we like Scotty Barnes in this spot.
I mean, there's plus money on over 7.5 rebounds. So until a month ago, this line probably would have been -130 over 7.5, or if not 8.5 and -115. But his over is just 3-12 on this stretch. He's just not been crashing the boards much since the trade, especially. He's averaging under 6 rebounds in this 15-game stretch. So, but for the season, the over is still 27-19 with an 8.3 average. I just think that, Chicago isn't a great rebounding team. They're slightly below average. His 6 games for Chicago, the over is 4-2 with an 8.5 rebound average. And intermixed with these low numbers, he has had like double-digit rebound games. So we know he's fully capable. And so it's about commitment and how they're going to use him. And I just think that, he's got to crash the boards for us.
Right. All right. One more game to get through here before we head over to the NFL props. Sixers going to Golden State. Golden State 3.5-point home favorites here. Looking at Kuminga to go under.
Yeah, I think Embiid is still, and Maxey, they didn't play. They got killed by Portland.
That was a nightmare.
So we'll see. I'm assuming that maybe they were saving them for this game. But in the model right now, we have Maxey in and Embiid 50-50. I'm going with Kuminga under 28.5 points, rebounds, assists. He's been on an absolute tear recently. He complained recently, wanted a trade, and they've been playing in major minutes and giving ball. And he's so it's driven this line pretty high at 28.5 points, rebounds, and assists. So I'm going to fade his 6 straight overs because Golden State hasn't been winning in this 6-game stretch. So it's not like they can say, with Kuminga being featured, we're killing it. Also, his overs have been driven a lot by extremely hot 3-point shooting, 11 for 19. And so even though he's an improved 3-point shooter, it's still going to likely regress. Maybe if Embiid's playing, Kevon Looney, who's been getting under 10 minutes or well under 15 minutes recently, maybe he gets a few more minutes at the power forward center spot. And Draymond and Looney are both on the court at times to try to deal with Embiid, and that could cut into Kuminga's minutes.
Yeah, I like this play a lot. I like fading some unsustainable steam. We hit it with Brunson, I believe, last week it was, but you just can't keep doing that many games in a row. Seems unlikely. All right, any other NBA questions Jake and Derek will certainly get to in the chat. We're going to do something a little more spicy here, more spicy than we do with most of our props. We're going to start looking at some tackle props. Now, if you'll notice, most of these props are going to be plus money, a lot of good value. I'm going to bring Jake in here too if he wants to put in his little 2 cents as well looking at this. But we'll start with the Niners here. We got a couple solo props. Dre Greenlaw, we're looking at total. But Steven, if you want to put your share your screen into here, I can put it up as well. But let's start hacking away at these guys.
Yeah. So I like these solo tackle props because I just noticing there's nothing too complicated here. In Ward's case, we're projecting 3.7, which is higher. His over is only 8 and 10 this season, including the playoffs, but he's had 2 games with 8, so he can pop so so the model likes him at 3.7. In terms of Warner, He's a tackling machine. So his like solo and assisted tackles numbers is pretty high, but he's only averaged 4.8 in the regular season solo tackles, but he's had 15 in the last 2 weeks in his 2 playoff games. And I do think Kansas City is going to give Pacheco a lot of runs. Pacheco had like 24 runs last week. So this should be right in Warner's sweet spot to get a little bit more than what he averaged in the regular season, where teams didn't really try to run on San Francisco because they statistically were so good. Also, like Greenlaw, the under for his total tackles combined. He averages 8, so that's less than 8.5. We have under in his solo tackles as well, but the juice is better for the combined at -115 versus -135 on the solo number.
Okay. So just like I'm personally not someone who usually bets tackles or solo tackles, total tackles in general. Like, what specific type of playing scheme are we looking for to help these go over?
Well, for me, it's the star players who are going to get major snaps, and they're not going to necessarily rely on their backups as much because it's the Super Bowl.
You're talking about these guys that are tackling?
Yeah, why I like the overs, because and I do think defenses I think defense is going to be more impactful than offense, and people in both teams are commit to the ground. Giving more tackling opportunities than you get in a passing heavy game.
Right. All right. So we're looking at a lot of ground game here, which definitely helps these overs hit. All right. Yeah. Good to know. I'll definitely be playing one of these. Before we get to Kansas City tackle props, a question from Matt about Patrick Mahomes' rushing yards. I know this line has been steaming from what I can recall.
Yeah. We aren't the model's only projecting 21. Every other season during this time, I said, Patrick Mahomes over in rushes is the best bet because he seems to amp it up. And every other playoffs he has. The last 2 weeks, though, he's only had 15 and 19. He's had 6 carries in both games. So, he's certainly not shying away from it. But I think teams are a little more cognizant of it. And they don't like Mahomes. They don't use Mahomes as a runner like most teams. Like, he never runs a quarterback sneak because he injured himself the year after his first MVP on a quarterback sneak. So he doesn't get those carries.
Mm-hmm. All right. Good to know there. Let's head over to the Kansas City side. I believe we're looking at – I'm looking at the wrong thing. We're looking at all solo tackles here and all plus money, which could be a little nice moment. Jake, I don't know if you're
secondary too. So for Justin Reed, I'm not going to overthink it. He averaged 4.6 this season. You're getting plus money on over 4.5. Models at 4.8. He had 8 versus Buffalo, so he can be a high volume. And then you got a guy like McCaffrey who gets past the front 4, and these guys got to come in and clean it up.
Mm-hmm.
L'Jarius Sneed, unfortunately, he had that awesome. He's an awesome corner, and he but none of the Chiefs' defense was spectacular, and they had 3 turnovers against the Ravens. But for the season, I think they only forced like 10 turnovers. So their defense is great because they tackle really well. And so, and we know the importance of the wide receivers and tight end for San Francisco and the yak that they rely on. So Kansas City is going to be focused on tackling the short the 8-yard pass and trying to limit it. So they'll be extra focused on that. And then Trent McDuffie, again, a great corner, but doesn't get a lot of interceptions. So I just like at 3.5 at plus 125. We're projecting almost 4. He averaged 3.8 in the regular season. So again, I like that. I think it's going to be more tackles opportunities than your average game.
Right. All right, good stuff there because we're looking at a run game. So again, interesting props to look at that maybe there's not as much public eye on. Good value here, certainly.
And all these numbers have come down. So when I put this together yesterday, the plus 135 was plus 135 is the best price. So you want to probably move sooner than later.
Yeah, act now moment here, and then act now moment for the episode from yesterday. Certainly, that Trent McDuffie should be an over. That's my fault there. But nonetheless, overs, lots of plus money here, lots of value plays to be on. We're going to move over to a little bit more of college basketball, looking at some futures. And if you've been on futures with us in the past through football season, we've been hitting Heisman, we've been hitting MVP, and we've been getting the value spots when you should. So, oh no, I'm exposing us here. All right.
Alert right there.
Well, all right. So, Jake, explain. We're looking at 5 teams here. Explain really what's going on, what we're looking at.
These are just teams that we updated the Jerry Pump bracket yesterday, and then Steven updated it this morning. We ran the bracket sims. These are all teams that have value in one book or another compared to their odds.
Okay.
So 4 of these teams have championship value. Then the one team, our Cinderella team, has Final Four value.
Don't give it away, okay? All right, so I'll start with UConn, who the shortest odds, still plus 1,000, still good value, but someone you think's worth sprinkling some money on?
I think this is worth sprinkling because I think there's a good chance you could hedge this later on if they make the Final Four. So even though I don't love them to win, it'd be so hard to win back-to-back. They're the best team right now. Donovan Clingan, I saw a stat that he played. It was on 32 defensive possessions last game against Xavier. Xavier scored 12 points in those 32 possessions, which is an insane amount. So when he's on and when Castle is playing well, and then their depth is really emerging right now, they're going to be a really hard team to beat. They're very well coached. I thought they were going to have trouble even being a top 5 team after where they lost last year with Hawkins going to the NBA, but they're just an all-around complete team, and they're hard to bet against. And I think if you get them at plus 1,000, I think this is probably going to go to plus 800, plus 750 in the next week or two. It's already plus 800 in a couple books. So I would get this now.
And we've said this before, but if they didn't win last year, it'd probably be like plus 800 already.
Exactly. Or even plus 600. They're that good.
Yeah.
Wow. All right, let's move to a different team with a little more value here. Alabama plus 2,800 to win.
So Alabama's interesting. They are like top 10 in Ken Palm, but they're 24th in the country in the AP poll. We love their metrics, and Ken Palm loves their metrics. All these computer analysis love Alabama's metrics because they're the number 1 team in offensive efficiency. They're, I think, in the 60s in defensive efficiency, which really hurts them. But we have really good value at plus 2,800 on DK, but every other book's plus 2,000. So you're getting really good value on a major sports book here in Alabama. And you like teams that are just so good at offense. The problem is, I wrote this last year on Twitter, that no team has won the championship in the last 20 years that has been outside the top 40 in defensive efficiency. So that's kind of what's bringing Alabama down.
That's scary. I mean, is there time between now and March that can?
It could definitely go down. But I know they're playing some more freshman bigs like Diabate. So maybe that'll help, but it's not looking good for the defensive efficiency right now, though. That's what's hindered them in the tournament the last couple of years.
Right. Yeah, I remember that. All right, let's move over to Creighton here. Plus 4,500 on FanDuel to win.
Yeah, we have Creighton as a borderline 1 seed right now. We also love everything about Creighton. Creighton, actually, they're top 40 in offensive and defensive efficiency. So they're one of these teams that kind of fits the mold of the championship caliber team. Even though I don't love their depth, I think that's what's holding them back. But they're top 4 of Kalkbrenner, Alexander, Stephen Ashworth, and Baylor Shireman. They'll compete with anyone. So the problem is if one player gets hurt, they're screwed. But plus 4,500 is really good value.
Okay. This is a complete sidetrack, but this was a good point by Jared. I think we talked about this yesterday about MVS. We liked his yards, but longest reception we thought was something certainly worth looking into. I think it was, like 13 and a half maybe what we saw?
I'll check if I can find it. I know I threw that out there as something I would like to bet on, but I don't know if I saw the line.
Maybe we didn't have a definite line, but yes, Jared, that is something that we support that.
We like it. When I had Ayuk over for longest was good because we had under projection for receptions, but over projection in yardage. And that's the case with MVS again, in this case, that the model likes over in yardage, but under 1.5 receptions. So that
12.5 on MVS's line's 12.5 of Bet Rivers at minus 118. But yeah. I was just saying the longest reception of the game out of any player. I think that's going to be like probably like plus 350 or something like that for him to have the longest reception of the game. I'm
Yeah.
going to look out for that.
We should definitely look into those like niche props too, also later in the week and next week. All right, let's finish out these two here. A little more of underdog energy going over to TCU plus 8,000.
Yeah, TCU was in my preseason Final Four, and they're another team that the metrics like better than the rankings. I think they're a really well-rounded team. They still have star power. Emmanuel Miller, sometimes he could be that star, but they just don't have that top player that you could trust all the time. I just think they're a really well-rounded team. I like Jamie Dixon as a coach, and plus 8,000 is a pretty good value here. I think they're a really good sleeper to be on.
Mm-hmm. Now, we're not necessarily looking at championship level, but Final Four, our Cinderella team, Indiana State Sycamores.
Yeah, I'm not ready to trust them for a championship bet, but plus 8,500 to make the Final Four. Give me that. We have them going to the Final Four 1.7% of Sims. I think plus 8,500 is equivalent to 1.3. So there's some value, model value here. And we're all Sycamore fans. We're going to get our Larry Bird throwback jerseys for the tournament. We're riding with the Sycamores this year. The problem is they're number 11 in offensive efficiency, but they're, I think, 121st in defensive efficiency. So that's really rough, and that's why I would not have them winning the championship, even as a major Cinderella. But plus 8,500 make the Final Four. It depends what bracket they're in. If they play Alabama, who they already played this season, who's good on offense but not great on defense, maybe it gets into a shootout and they could beat a team like that.
Wow.
Yeah, we have the 26th best team in the field, so we would have them more of a 7 seed, and they're 11th in Jerry Palm's bracket.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, Final Four I'll take. I think that's still worth investing in some merch, certainly. All right, just starting to sprinkle in the March Madness conversation. Again, we want to be ahead of it, get the best value while we can. Sprinkle some money on some of these plays if you like them. Again, we will continue to attack NFL, different prop markets throughout the week and next week, and of course, NBA as well. As always, any questions you have, please put them on Twitter. Good luck with your bets tonight, and we'll see you guys tomorrow.